Hey, good afternoon, Automotive Aftermarket. Carm Capriato, Town Hall Academy. What week are we? 295. Can you believe it? Glad to have you here. We're going to talk about preserving your reputation. Man, I'll tell you, we've never done a show like this before. Never. So glad you're here. We're coming to you live from the Remarkable Results Radio Podcast Studio, sometimes called My Carm Cave. Glad to have you here. I got a great panel. I'd like to introduce you to my panel, Matt Fonslow, shop manager, lead diagnostician, Riverside Automotive, Red Wing, Minnesota, and from the Matt Fonslow Diagnosing the Aftermarket podcast, A to Z. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. Al Wright's here from John's Automotive, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Hello, Al.
Hi, Carm.
Glad you're here, man. And we have a mystery guest who's not here yet. Anyone ever go through technical difficulties? I'm sure you have. Okay, I get it. I understand. If you're with us on social media, give us a high five and a like. Tell us where you're with us. In fact, you have any questions you'd like to propose to our great panel here, please do so. High five to our great sponsors. Hey, do you struggle to let go of the shop at the end of the day? When you see your end of day balance, how you're tracking this month, it's much easier to enjoy that ball game or the holiday or not wake up at 2 a.m. Talk to my friends at getshopware.com. Hey, join ASE certified master technician and senior Delphi Technologies instructor Dave Hobbs at AST 2022. That's next weekend, where he'll be providing training on Delphi's top fuel diagnostic tips. Delphi has over 30 courses run by ASE certified technicians, with more offerings coming soon. Learn more or inquire about courses at delphiaftermarket.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. So, hey, team, I'll be at ASTE next weekend, too. Hope to see you there. Please stop by the studio and say hi. Okay, our topic, covering and preserving your reputation. I bet you think about that a lot. And this is going to be a really interesting discussion, because I kind of got an idea of the talking points from our people. You know, do we talk way too much when we're explaining to people, and will that hurt our reputation or build it? And what happens if we do a misdiagnosis? How does the customer know? And if we did, and maybe there's a comeback issue, how do we come up and over it in preserving our reputation? I just love the fact that we live and eat on our reputations, and so much of our business does come from referrals, and referrals come from having a great reputation. Matt, I want to go to you first. Thank you for bringing me this topic. I think it's a perfect venue, the Town Hall Academy, to do this. Let's start. You've been thinking a lot about this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe dangerously just kind of thinking out loud, wondering out loud, kind of running it past you, running it past Al, a couple other shop owners. And I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer for a reputation on doing the right thing. If like you said, if we did something wrong, standing behind it, especially when the client knows about it, a comeback scenario, those are kind of no-brainers. Accept the responsibility that we should be, for sure, and then in some cases it's worthwhile to accept even more. But the nature of this is a little bit different. The nature of this was listening to the front counter often, and not in the case so much of a service advisor, but usually somebody higher up, an owner or manager who is maybe really involved in the back of house, kind of rambling and keep talking and disclosing more and more and more information, that at some point I feel like there might be a teetering section. There might be a point where there's now diminishing returns. Sometimes being completely open and honest is, and it's a good policy, but sometimes that is going to gain you more trust, more a better reputation. But then sometimes when you're explaining things that maybe don't need to be explained, or issues that you ran into that really they don't need to know about because you took care of it, it's not going to affect the end bill. It's not going to affect the invoice. It's not going to affect the quality of the repair. It's not going to affect the check that the client is writing to you. Do they need to know about it? And it's really just openly wondering about it. And I wanted to bounce the ideas off of you and Al, and hopefully later on, if we can get
Brad.
Brad on here. That's really the nature of this.
Well, and I think Matt's a good point. You know, as an owner, there are certain things that we feel obligated to tell the customer. If you know, a customer asks is one thing, but if there's an issue in the shop, I've always told my employees and my guys, hey, if something happens, we break something, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen, but it's how you take care of that. And as long as we can take care of it, um, there's certain things that are going to happen, and maybe the customer doesn't need to know. The repair, like you said, the repair is still the same. The invoice is still the same. We're taking care of it, because I think at some point you lose that reputation, because even if you're taking care of it, there are some people out there that are going to say, you know, last time I took it there, they broke this, you know, and it's something that they may not even have any idea about. So it's how you take care of it. But I think you're right. I think there's a lot of times where you take care of it, you move on, to protect your reputation, and you just keep quiet about it.
I got to chime in, guys, because you got me thinking about some surgery that I recently had. I mean, why do we constantly think of the medical field, right? And when the doctor came back, it was kidney stones, guys, and it was only like 2 months ago. And when the doctor came back, he did not say to me, "Well, Carmen, we were in there and we had to do this and we had to do that, and then this thing happened, and then we had to pump you full of this." I mean, I don't even know. But guess what? I woke up and I was better and everything was fine. And so what I got was two very simple things. It went great. Maybe it did or didn't. I don't know. It wasn't there. And you're going to be fine. And me at the state of mind I was in finishing up this transaction, I felt wonderful. I mean, I don't know if I was going to be sore in the next day or two or three, but the fact of the matter is I gained confidence from the very quick discussion I had about fixing the Carm car.
It's the end result, you know. It's the end result that matters. And like Matt said, I think there's a lot of times where you hear that where there's some rambling, whether it's a service advisor or an owner, um, that they do some rambling, and they maybe tell too much. Um, End result is the car's fixed and we took care of it. There's not going to be an issue. So let's move forward.
Yeah, and I think there's examples where we do this already, not directly related to what we're talking about, but there are times that we kind of, I don't know if lie by omission is quite the right phrasing, but if there is a mistake made in the back, and one you can't really hide, it's pretty rare, and I think greatly frowned upon to call out specifically the technician's name who did it. You know, it's like, oh, Matt. Yeah, Matt did that. You would never do that. You would just say we, or, you know, a tech, the tech, who's not going to be named. You don't really call them out when things go wrong. Now, it's probably not a good thing to call them out when things go right. Further, that would be a way to keep building reputation, not only of the shop, but the technician. But so we already kind of withhold some information. Like it's not that pertinent for you to know. And we're trying to keep building a positive reputation. That's, again, it's not to say there's never times to be forthcoming. But that's we already do that. I'm just kind of wondering, like, how far and can this go? Should it go? And I think there are times where a repair goes sideways. You know, we were doing the timing chains on your car and we accidentally dropped your timing cover and it shattered, but I got a new one the same day. I'm not charging you for it. Do they really need to know about that? And I mean, that's probably not even a really good example, because I don't know if that helps or hurts you by saying that, but that would be something where maybe they don't really need to know.
Again, I think it's stuck in the back of their head, that, "Oh, these guys, last time I was there, they even though they told me about it, they broke this, so do I wanna go back there?" Um, and like I say, we're human, we're gonna make mistakes, we all know it's gonna happen sooner or later, but I think I don't think there's certain things that we really just need to spill the beans and say, "Hey, oh," and like you said, even specifically calling out a technician, it would be, in my book, a definite no-no. I mean, um, I think that if there is an issue, as you said, it's we, us, whatever. But I don't think you call out a technician, and I don't think like again, I don't think. I mean, I don't mean to be repetitive, but if they don't know about it, it's not going to hurt your reputation. It's going to protect your reputation more that way, because chances are they will never know about that.
Let me jump in here and talk about ethics. Can I do that?
Yeah, please.
Uh, we have rules of business ethics in every business. Some of them are good, some of them don't exist, and some of them are the best in the entire world. And if you let's just talk about the timing cover issue. If the ethics were that we're going to do everything above board and honest, and we're always going to live in a make it right scenario for us and our customers, then what you did on the timing chain is you made it right. Doesn't necessarily have it could go on the part of the work order that doesn't get published. But even if that customer comes in and says, hey, that timing cover looked really super clean, even if you tried to clean it, there's not an ounce of grease on that. Why? Hey, well, we made it right. We dropped it. We did a crash, and it's irrelevant to the fact that we're doing a right job, but we made it right. And I think that goes further to solidify your reputation than to say that you goofed and you broke something, and then they think poorly down the road of in the back of their mind, what's the whole timing chain? Whatever money they plop down, it's going to be that they broke my cover.
Yep. And they can become hypersensitive. We all do that, right? I do the brake repair on somebody's vehicle. They are super hypersensitive to noises, vibrations, anything like that. And that's just normal to be expected. When you start introducing things like that, we accidentally broke. We we did take care of it. We did the right thing. We got the new part or the quality used part, whatever. They're hypersensitive now. Now, it's 100 degrees outside, super humid. The AC is running. There's water running on the ground, but God, that timing cover you guys broke, is that leaking now? And I'm just saying, sometimes you open up a can of worms with over information, and again, it's really wondering out loud. And I think there's validity, like what you're saying, like the intent behind it is good, and we're not taking anything away from the client. They're not performing a substandard repair. We're not charging them more for our mistakes. Nothing's really changed with that end result. You could maybe even argue in some cases the end result's better because there's more, another new part on there. But
That's what I was just going to say too. That there's a new part on there, and it may be better than the old one. And as Carm was saying, um, for me, if I was to go, as a customer client, that if I had something and I noticed it after the fact, I'd be more willing to rave about the fact that, hey, these guys are great, they took care, made it right, than I would be, oh, these guys broke my timing cover. If you told them that, if they even notice it. But if, like as Carm was saying, if they notice it and ask about it, be honest with them. Say, yeah, we screwed up, but we made it right. This is going to be a better repair than. I think they're going to be more apt to talk to you or about you in a good way than, if you told them, hey, we broke this and we made it right. They may not want to come back if they're thinking, oh, geez, they broke this. What else are they going to break?
Okay, so I'm on the dentist's chair 15, 20 years ago, and I'm all done with whatever work I was getting done. I go home, and man, am I in pain. And typically the Novocaine wears off after a while, and you recover a few hours later. It's like you never had anything before. Well, man, I was so sensitive in my cheek over here, and I couldn't figure it out. So the next day, I just couldn't live with it anymore. So I went in, and the nurse told me at the front counter, "Well, the doctor hit your cheek with the drill, and he didn't say anything about it." It was something that I noticed.
That's slightly different because you notice it. That is
but
going to
I
affect you.
noticed the timing cover wasn't right. But
Yep.
my point is that they didn't make it right. They didn't do it right. In ethics, the word right can be whatever I want it to be, and I think that's why the word ethics has to come in here. And I think, if Matt, to your point, I think if it's obvious and it's going to gain us favor and preserve our reputation, hey, listen, we had a problem with your timing cover. We put a new one on. It's our issue. We had a problem with your timing cover. Couldn't get it back on right. Okay, and there's your omission issue, right? That we dropped it and it shattered. But I don't think. Again, I'm trying to talk myself into the ideas that this topic is about. And Matt, it's almost like you got to talk about it. But you don't have to talk about exactly what happened. Greasy fingers, it slipped and it broke. Hey, we had a problem with the timing cover. We put a new one on. It's our dime.
Yeah. And it might be on the noticeable stuff, maybe less noticeable. I think there's other examples when you start factoring in sublet. I don't know how many shops handle that, where if you do not do alignments in-house, you send them elsewhere. Does the client know you're sending them elsewhere? And I'm actually not arguing one side or the other, but if there's an issue, and they show up to your shop, are you like, well, yeah, but you got to take it down to John's Automotive. They did the alignment.
Al, would you do that?
Well, that's one thing that I've always said. Even, I don't do a whole lot of the stuff that Matt does it, or I've got a friend of mine here in Cedar Rapids that does a lot more programming than I do. There's certain things
my next example was the mobile techs. Yep.
There's a lot of stuff that I don't get into that I do sublet to another shop. But I will say I always get permission from the customer, because the last thing I want to see or have happen is the customer sees their car or drives by another shop and sees it there. And like Matt said, if they come back to me about it, I'll take care of it and get it back over to them. But if they know about that up front, that I took it to another shop, I think you almost have to, as far as being honest with the customer. I think in a situation like that, I've always said, hey, we don't get into that, but I can take care of it for you. I've got another shop that does a lot of that programming. We can get it taken care of. But I think you have to be honest with them about that.
Okay, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back, talk about comebacks. You guys okay with that?
Sure.
Cool. Sure. Hey, more cars equals more money. So the faster you check them in, pump out an accurate estimate, and move them through the bays, all the better. Get shopware.com for a smooth ride through every step of the day. Hey, trust in the aftermarket supplier that makes the parts that the cars are born with. With over 100 years of OE heritage, Delphi Technologies quality parts gives you peace of mind. Learn more at delphiaftermarket.com. Next week's Town Hall Academy is going to be on climbing out of despair. All my friends, Kevin Eckler, Jerry Kazaya, Carl Hutchinson, all shop owners that have stories to tell. I'm gonna give up something right now. We're gonna be at ASTE when we do broadcast this. I've already recorded it. And as much as that title sounds like it could be a dreary episode, we had a hoot talking about climbing up and out. It was just an incredible episode. I think you're all going to love it so much. So comebacks, as far as preserving your reputation, I mean, it was on Brad's talking points, and he's not going to be able to join us. The technical difficulties, I guess, got so bad. Let us try to cover that topic, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it gets back to you definitely have to take responsibility for your part. What is the comeback for? And you're going to try to get that vehicle back and looked at and determine, is it, the part of your procedure failed, the part itself, like that. And then, there's certain situations, determine whether you should accept a little bit more responsibility than you truly should be held accountable for because of that, the reputation, trust factor, just trying to do things right. I'm not trying to imply you got to be everybody's best friend either, but I think strategically there's times to take on a little bit more.
I think it's how it's handled. I think the whole, most comebacks that people aren't really happy, and when they come in, but you've got to let them vent, let them, and then, for me, I've always said that we don't want issues. We don't buy inferior parts or anything. We want to do the job right. So let's find out what happened. But the first thing I think you do is get the customer, if they're upset, calm down, explain to them that, hey, we'll be more than happy to get it back in, check things out, find out what's going on. It's how it's handled, I think, is the main thing. One of the biggest things I will say, that I've always said, and even in previous shops that I've worked in, before I was an owner, is don't give the farm away. If somebody comes back and they're asking, hey, you guys screwed this up. Um, I had a previous owner that I worked for that, man, he just drop everything and just give the whole thing away. And I think that, um, you got to ask, well, hey, what can we do to make this right? Let the customer, because a lot of times as a technician or as an owner, we're thinking, oh, geez, this is going to cost us a bunch of money. And the customer may say, hey, you take care of the parts, I'll take care of the labor. Or you take care of the labor, I'll take care of the parts. But it's how it's handled. And I think that you have to be, let them know that, hey, we're going to do everything we can to make it right. We don't want comebacks. But again, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. Or, hey, the people that made this part, you're going to have a part failure. That's the worst, I think, is on a comeback. I think where Brad was going with this was in a small town community, to protect your reputation. Um, where he's in a lot, or a lot of people are in a smaller community, and you want that reputation. And next thing you know, you've got a customer that says, "Geez, don't go there because they just, they don't take care of this or whatever." So you have to protect that reputation there. I mean, you've got to do what's right. Put yourself in the customer's shoes, and I've always said that. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. What would be right? What would make you feel better? What would look at it from in their shoes?
I like your suggestion though of having them offer solutions, because a lot of times their solutions are extremely reasonable.
Yes, and a
Probably
lot of time.
probably
Yeah,
overly reasonable against them, where you can step up and say, oh, no, wait, of course we're going to do that, but we're also, this needs
right,
to be included.
right,
That's a
right.
really good point.
And I think it's important to you see it that way. Is it's they've always said the person that speaks first loses, and let them talk first. Let them say, hey, what can I do to make it right? Let them tell you what they want, because a lot of times, especially if it's a major job, we're thinking, oh, geez, this is going to be a nightmare. This is going to cost us a bunch. And you find out that, hey, they're very reasonable in what they recommend.
Nathan Adcock from Scotland is with us almost every Friday. It's 2 o'clock our kind of our time, and it's probably what, 7 or 8 o'clock. Nathan, a great loyalist who always watches the show with us, and he comes on in one of his comments, and he talks about transparency. I mean, doesn't it go without saying that if you don't do that today, you're probably going to get your arm in a sling?
Maybe sometime, and I think there's just situations. I don't even want to imply it's common. I just think sometimes there's over transparency. Say, I'm make up an scenario here. You get a vehicle in, and we'll just say it's a Chevy, a GM vehicle. It sets EGR valve, EGR codes like P0404, EGR performance codes. And it's been to a couple other shops, and it's gotten some new parts put on it. New EGR valves, new powertrain control module, and it still sets that code, and it sets it immediately. So you're doing your analysis, and you really are stuck. You have a choice between the EGR valve, wiring, the powertrain control module. And let's just say using a scan tool, you can command the EGR all the way open. And that proves that the circuit's capable of carrying the current. The driver and the PCM's capable of carrying the current and opening it up all the way. But you've scoped the position sensor and you've scoped the current itself. And at low percentage rates, the PCM just cannot control this EGR. It just bounces around. What if you were to go buy a new OE EGR valve and plug it in just to see? Because you're kind of stuck. This has already had a couple new EGR valves. It turns out they were aftermarket. But you want to make sure. You want to be able to tell the client exactly what's going on. And you don't want to say, I want to guess. Please give me some money to try this at being at work. What if you just take on that risk yourself? You don't install the EGR valve, but you plug it in and it works. Is it worthwhile telling the client that whole story? Or do you say our testing led us to an EGR valve? It's most likely failed or not proper. Sometimes aftermarket companies try to do a wide range of vehicles on a single part number, and it just didn't work out in this case. So you just tell them our testing led us to this point. And I suppose substitution analysis could be considered a test technique, but in this case, you had an oddball, and the EGR will fix it. You proved it, but they don't necessarily know that. It's again openly wondering, does that whole story do you do things better for you, do better for your reputation, or worse, or are you better off just keeping it minimal about that part and stating that this is what our testing led to, this should be the repair, and then boom, they leave, it's fixed. You haven't had to trash any other shops for their parts replacements, and you kind of prove that.
I think you have to write that story, though. I think that if it's been to another shop, especially, and they replace parts, a lot of times I'll ask, because they'll tell you a lot of times, hey, I've already had it here, I've had this done, I've had that done. I always ask, one, where did the parts come from, so I have that information. But if you write that story and let the customer know what your testing led to, not only do they feel maybe more confident because you're proving through your testing, but also when you do that, I don't think they have an issue paying for the diagnostics. I don't think, you're building that value. You're letting them know that, hey, these are the tests we ran. These are the things that we have tested. This is what we've come to the conclusion. But you got to write that story. But at the same point, there's going to be that vehicle that, I hate to say it, but there's times where it's a process of elimination. You have to leave that door open. We have to start with the obvious. And I leave that door open to the customer, kind of to protect ourselves, that, hey, we've got to start with the obvious. This is what we're finding. We need to replace this. If we need to do further testing after that, we'll be in contact with you. But you've got to follow up on that and make sure you're in contact with them as well.
Hey guys, I want to come back and do our segment C. I love where this is going. I got a really challenging question for both of you when we come back. Hey, more cars equals more money. So the faster you check them in, pump out an accurate estimate, and move them through the bay, all the better. Get shopware.com for a smooth ride through every step of the day. Hey, are you up to date on your training? Well, Delphi Technologies is proud to offer over 30 courses run by ASE certified techs for professionals. Now turn to the OE aftermarket supplier with over 100 years of experience. 100 years. Inquire today at delphiaftermarket.com. Too bad we didn't have Brad come on. It's too bad the technical difficulties. But let's kind of put a bow on this with this question. Does the truth set you free?
It's supposed to. I don't know. I guess that's kind of the fundamental base of this the question and the wondering is, You
I would say
like it when the truth sets you free, but sometimes it's almost incriminating.
that's what I was just going to say. I said sometimes the old saying, the truth hurts, and it does. But I think, and I know in my shop, I would say yes, the truth sets me free, because if I'm truthful with you, um, I sleep better at night. That I've got it, and it goes back to, like you were saying, Carm, the ethics, and we've built our shop on honest and integrity. And if you're honest with people, again, we're gonna make mistakes. We're human. We're gonna make mistakes, but I, there's a limit that as we said, there's a limit that how far you go with something. Just because I didn't tell you everything doesn't mean I wasn't truthful with you. And I think that if you're honest with people, and you're gonna that reputation is gonna be there. You're gonna be known as being honest and truthful. And I think that and downright, yeah, I think it does set you free. I mean, I think you've got to be honest with people.
I this past weekend I was just chatting with a bunch of guys, and a story came up about shortcuts. And we're trying to work through a diagnostic problem, and we're taking too much time, maybe not according to the owner or the service advisor, but from the tech's perspective. And they jump to the bottom of the tree chart, and they replace the ECM, send the customer on their way with a nice bill, and it says, "Wow, that worked." Car comes back 2 weeks later. I think there's some confession that we, as the shop, the tech, the owner, the industry, has to do or say, or do we just move on and try the next issue? What's your thoughts on that?
I guess I see two separate potential scenarios. One is, at some point we have to trust our tests. We have to trust the tests and the results of those tests, and they're going to point us in a direction. And therefore, if the testing was rigorous and there was reason to believe that the module had failed, you have to go with where your tests take you. On the flip side, it's kind of getting back to that EGR a little bit. The EGR story a little bit is, I'm not seeing something jump out at me as being bad, outright bad. But, I'm playing probabilities. Maybe there's some history with these vehicles, these ECMs. So I'm rolling the dice a little bit. Should that have been brought up at the counter when you're calling to get approval? Probably. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's when you should have been honest.
Absolutely. And that's, I will say this, I have numerous times got into, especially on difficult diagnostic test, let the customer know that as you said, Matt, we've got to go with what our gut feeling is on the test, what the tests have led us to. Again, like I said, I always try to leave the door open and let the customer know that, hey, we've got to, this is what our tests are showing. This is what we believe to be wrong. They've paid the diagnostics. I put parts on, depending on the customer. Obviously, you want it to be a loyal, good customer, but I've said, hey, take this and drive it for a week. Keep me posted.
And I guess the do right rule is, we're into this so far where we charge them an hour. Maybe it's two, and we're really struggling with it. Then there's a point in time where you're looking at the clock and you're considering the relationship, your reputation. You got to call the customer and say, "Well, listen, we need another hour, because we can't get to the bottom of it." Or you just say, "I can't call them back again. Throw the ECM on."
No, I think that Carmen, you're right. You've got to, communication is key. I think you've got to communicate with that customer, and again, leave the door open that, hey, these are the things we see. We may need to do more, but this is what our initial tests are leading to. And that's where you call them back and say, we've done this, whether it fixed the problem, whether it didn't, it may have helped, or it may be somewhat better, but not completely fixed. We're gonna need some more time to do testing, but communication is key.
It's kind of I don't know, it's either a hypocrisy of the automotive repair profession, or at least the duality, that on one hand we can devalue the heck out of ourselves, and yet we hold ourselves to these very, very high standards. I should be able to figure this car out in 1 or 2 hours. If I can't, I suck, or we suck. We're doing something wrong. And it's like, wait a minute. In some cases, these are fairly complex issues with multiple systems interacting. And yet we're embarrassed to call a client and say, we need more time to go down this direction and this direction. And we're very, very harsh on ourselves.
And I don't understand that why, because as Carm was saying with the dentist or with, when you get into the medical field, and we always seem to bring that up, but how many times have we been to the doctor and been told, hey, you've got bronchitis, and next week, you come back and, they charge you the office call the first time, you get a medication, a week later, you still feel like garbage, you go back to the doctor, oh, we're going to do this. They charge you again, where typically if we misdiagnose something, they bring it back. We don't charge them again for the diagnosis, but why are we so hard on ourselves to not charge that, or not to say, hey, how many times have you been misdiagnosed at the doctor? We're no different. We're a car doctor.
Yeah, it's
hey, listen, Al. Thanks for bringing that up. Matt just interviewed a doctor, and I haven't heard the episode yet, Matt. But was there any parallel here?
There's a terrific number of parallels between the two professions. I mean, when it really boils down to it, is people designed and built the car. I don't think any one person truly knows how everything works on the car they built or designed, but humans, there's no manufacturer to go back to and try to get the wiring schematic for the nervous system, or
I love it.
Always reverse engineering.
Put that comment back up from Nathan. Thank you, Nathan. Your doctor would get you back for more tests the same day with our industry, and you'd pay for it. And then the dialogue, I was having that dialogue actually this morning with someone, is that, okay, just insurance keeps paying for it.
Yeah.
And so we got to do some more. We have to do some more. We have to do some more. And all you do is say, yes, yes, yes. And maybe it's a $25, $50 copay, whatever it is, but you're concerned. Your life and its health is more important than the car sometimes. And I get that part. I understand it's an inanimate object, and we're human beings, but the parallels are incredible. I can't wait to hear that episode, Matt. I'm sure it was great. Well, look, I know we didn't solve the world's crisis here, but it was a very open and healthy dialogue on covering and preserving your reputation. We talked about ethics and comebacks and all that honesty stuff. I so appreciate it. Al Wright, John's Automotive, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, on one of the committees that helps bring in great training at Vision. Thank you for all that you do there. And Matt Fonslow from Riverside Automotive, Red Wing, Minnesota, lead diagnostician, shop manager, and the Matt Fonslow Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z podcast. Matt,
I also took on the head janitorial position.
So. You did. Wow, I know they've been romancing you with that job, but money was probably right, huh?
I see Matt doing a great job with it, though.
Anything he touches, he does good at. Hey, thanks. Have a great weekend, everyone.
You too.
Thanks.